All right. Hello, everybody. Yes, it's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm here today to answer to a controversy that happened recently. Grant you, it's been some time, and I hope not to pour salt on an old wound here, but we want to go through an interesting controversy that happened with the movie Gravity not too long ago, involving this guy right here, the somewhat blurry Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist who's no stranger to controversy. He was part of the group that helped debunk Pluto as a planet. And as you know, I'm sure we're all getting ready for those Plutonians to, rise up and come back and raid our planet just so that they can get their planetary status back. But before that happens, Neil deGrasse Tyson has some interesting words to say about Gravity, the movie with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. He was able to point out some scientific inconsistency with this movie. Now, he got a lot of angry letters for that. People saying he's overthinking it, people saying he's ruining it, this and that, which is something I'm sure he's used to, thanks to Pluto. But that said, I really don't disagree. I don't really agree with the backlash that he's receiving. He's just somebody who's pointing out some interesting facts about the movie, some things they get wrong, and this is not the first time anyone has done that to any movie. Okay, this is nothing new here, but for some reason he's getting a lot of heat from it. He's getting a lot of grift from it, and he even missed a point too. I just remembered, but that's not the main thing. The main thing I want to do here is I'm here to defend his point of view and the fact that he should be doing something like this. Because one thing, we all do it. Heck, even I've been known to do it. So we're going to be talking about it in detail, and I will have to say that there are some spoilers ahead, so be warned. And I think there's actually an interesting mystery of Gravity that he missed that I hope to remember to bring up. I really wasn't going to be talking about that, not the mysteries of Gravity. Mind you, we're not here to recreate his list, but we're here to defend his list, all right? Now, we're going to start with the reasons. The first reason is because it's a compliment. You got to admit something. If somebody's going to take the time to review a movie and point out some of its shortcomings, that's a compliment. That's not an insult. He's not here to trash the movie. He really wasn't destroying the movie. He was here pointing out, saying, hey, think about this, think about that. That's what he does. So it's a compliment. The fact that somebody was able to take the time and consider some of the things that were going on, that was a compliment to the movie itself. And I think people need to realize that. Secondly, it's interesting to hear an expert's opinion, and I find that very true. When it comes to Neil deGrasse Tyson's opinion on Gravity, he's just pointing out things you really wouldn't know unless you were an expert. Like, for example, there was something he was talking about how the space shuttle, was forming an east-west position when it should have been more of a west-east position or something like that. I don't know. Or how, the two space stations, which are very far apart, are still in eye's view. You can still see them and everything. How is that possible? One of the biggest ones that a lot of people are experiencing, this is one of those, it's just a movie things. But the true problem with Gravity ultimately comes down to the famous George Clooney, Sandra Bullock tether scene, where George Clooney, as I mentioned before, there's going to be spoilers ahead. I didn't say anything, but I showed you the flag. This is the big spoiler. George Clooney is being tethered. She has just this parachute holding on to her, and, she's on her last leg. All she has to do is yank, okay? Because here's the problem. George Clooney's being hurled backwards. By what? He's in space. Now, grant you, maybe he already has some momentum going backwards. However, Sandra Bullock, being connected to him, has put him at a stop. So now he's at a standstill. She has to yank, he would come. Now wait, what happens if she dies? What happens if she loses her little tether there from that parachute? Well, if she yanks back, he's moving forward, she's going the other way, but they're tethered together. He grabs on, they're safe. I have said this on the Internet Movie Database message boards, and I'm going to say it again here. In the near future, that scene is going to be comedic gold, just like what happened on Titanic. Remember Titanic? Jack's in the water, Rose is on top of the door. Jack's like, okay, can I come up? Can we take turns? Can I do something to stay alive? And Rose is like, no, I'm good. You can just, die, And so people have made fun of that. People have mentioned that over and over again. Here in Gravity, it's going to be the same thing. You mark my words. One interesting point that I think that Neil deGrasse Tyson did not mention, that I think people should have, is why did the shards of debris that is going around the planet, why did it make its 90-minute mark when they're moving away? See, George Clooney is like, moving around. He's like, you know what? It's going to take 90 minutes for that stuff to go around the planet and come back to us. And so they set their clocks for 90 minutes. But it's 90 minutes from that point, and they're moving a good long distance. But it still takes 90 minutes for it to come around. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not exactly 90 minutes. She hears the phone, the thing go off, which, how could she hear it? She's in space. I think it's inside her spacesuit, though. Overthinking it. But the thing comes back around. But let's face it, that's supposed to be the antagonist. What's the bad guy in this movie, Gravity? Space debris. You know what? One of these days we're going to have missions to clean that stuff up. All right, what's next? It's his job, people. It's his job to scrutinize. It's his job to dissect things. He's an astrophysicist. He's a scientist. So it's his job to find out stuff like this. This is what he does. He takes, planets, he takes them apart and decides what is a planet, what's not a planet. That's why Pluto is now just a dwarf planet. We have 8, not 9 planets like we used to. But I believe Pluto will be coming back soon. I really think so. Next up, the expectation. Now this is more about the movie, not about Neil deGrasse Tyson. The movie itself has great talent. It's supposed to be a really intelligent movie, so you would expect better. You expect, more realism than what you got sometimes. Now, grant you, it's still a movie. If you had real realism, let's face it, Sandra Bullock wouldn't have made it. She'd be dead just like everybody else. So they had to have that suspension of disbelief. The point I'm really trying to make here, and I gotta stress this over and over again, is that we're not ruining the movie by doing this. We're not destroying Gravity by pointing out all these errors in logic. Because let's face the ultimate reality piece, people. The number one reason why Neil deGrasse Tyson should not be blasted for what he did is because people like finding out what's wrong with a movie. Haven't you ever seen it with those history movies where it's like, this is what happened. Oh, but then you get the reality of this is what really happened. Remember Lee Daniels, the butler? In the movie, the butler quits because of Reagan's stance on apartheid. But what happens in reality? The guy retires with honors, in good standing with Reagan. There was no fallout. There was no, I can't take this anymore, I'm done with y'all. It was more like I'm getting old, getting up in years, time for me to move on. If I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on this, also his son was in jail a few times for being like this, rebel leader and stuff. Didn't happen. His son never went to jail, from what I understand. And so, but you know what? What they like to do is they like to put these things in for entertainment purposes. That's fine. That's good. You want to put it in for entertainment purposes, go for it. But don't expect us not to notice it. And don't let us not to blast it when we actually realize it. And that's not what he did. He just pointed out the fact that said, hey, this movie kind of off. Like all movies are. Doesn't take away from your enjoyment. Doesn't take away from your appreciation of the film. He didn't say it was a bad film. Nobody said it was a bad film, but there were errors in logic that kind of made you scratching your head, wondering, okay, is this really believable or not? And that's all we're trying to say. People do this. I have not seen a single movie where, there's websites dedicated to movie mistakes all over the world. They've all got them. Everybody points them out. Everybody does it. So I don't want you to be, going too far on that. And I'm hoping not, like I said, I'm hoping not pouring salt on a wound here, reminding people of what he did and, the controversy and everything. And I'm hoping that we'll all enjoy our movie and see what happens in the future. In the meantime, guys, that's it for me today. We will be seeing you next time. Take it easy now.